First, speak with Ranvi. She has more than one task for you here. Apart from growing this settlement, you must seek alliances as well. We cannot pacify England with so few friends. Sigurd Striborn's son, 873. Hello, I'm Andrew, and I want to welcome you to Visions of the Past, a podcast all about the lore of Assassin's Creed. This is episode 73, and today we're going to talk about the time that Eivor Varinsdottir spent in England. I know you might be wondering why we're talking about Eivor Varinsdottir again, only 3 weeks removed from the last time that we spoke about her. The simple answer is that in just a few days, we will see the first DLC expansion to Assassin's Creed Valhalla in the Wrath of the Druids, and I want to cover her life in preparation for this DLC. Before we start talking about her life, I will say up front that we are not going to go into every little detail of it, because if we did that, we'd end up with 3 or 4 separate podcasts because of everything that happens in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So what we're going to do instead is hit the major life points that Eivor experienced between 873, when she arrived in England, and 878, when she discovered the identity of the Grand Magister of the Order of the Ancients. With that being said, we pick up just about a week after Eivor left for England in 873, when the group that Eivor was with found the old settlement of the Sons of Ragnar, fighting some bandits and realizing that the settlement was abandoned. Over time, they expanded on the settlement, building a forge, a bureau for the Hidden Ones, among other buildings. While finding out that Eivor and Ubba Ragnarsson were in Repton, Sigurd left to meet them, leaving Eivor in charge of the settlement, asking her to do some work for Ranvi and to meet him in Repton. Ranvi explained to Eivor that Sigurd wanted her to create alliances throughout England, and that she can start with Sigurd in Leicestershire to meet the Sons of Ragnar Lodbrok, or head to Grantonbridgeshire to meet the leader of the Great Dane army Guthrum and his second-in-command Soma, but she also needed to talk to Hytham before leaving. When talking to Hytham, Eivor was told that the order that Kjotve the Cruel belonged to, the Order of the Ancients, has members in London, Jorvik, and Winchester, the largest cities in England. And after building the bureau, Hytham asked Eivor to eradicate the Order's presence within London, as it will make her goal of finding alliances easier. After agreeing, Hytham showed Eivor how to do a leap of faith, while trying to get her to understand a little bit about the Hidden Ones. After her leap, they returned to Ravensthorpe, and Hytham reiterated how their goals aligned, and to prove the deaths of the Order of the Ancients, to bring him the medallions that they carry, like the one that she took off Kjotve. Agreeing, she stated she would talk to Ranvi about London. Before she left, though, Hytham asked her to also keep a lookout for the symbol of the Hidden Ones in her travels, and to look for the old bureaus around England, as there should be documents there that will aid in his studies. After getting all of this information, Eivor headed off to help Soma in Grantonbridgeshire, to find that they lost their stronghold in Grantonbridge because of a traitor and a member of the Order of Ancients named Wigmund. By helping with these 2 issues, Eivor gained Soma's alliance, and Eivor also gained the Drengr, or warrior, Birna. When in Leicestershire, Eivor met Ubba and Eivor Ragnarsson, and with Sigurd, helped them place Ceolwulf on the throne. Eventually, they did succeed in removing King Burgred and exiled him to Rome, gaining the allegiance of the newly crowned king Ceolwulf and agreeing to house his son Ceolbert for a while. After getting back to Ravensthorpe, the name for the settlement that Eivor now calls home, she told the residents of what had happened in Grantonbridgeshire and Leicestershire, only to have the feast interrupted by Dag, feeling that Eivor was insulting Sigurd with her story, and that she plans to take the leadership of the clan from him. Before the conversation went too far, though, a group of Danes attacked Ravensthorpe, and the citizens were able to repel the attack, though they did not get any information about why when they captured one raider. After this, Eivor headed to East Anglia to help Fenrir to find a successor to the slain King Edmund. Eivor eventually helped Oswald grow to be that king by helping him be respected by his bride-to-be, Valdis's, brothers, Balther and Broder, and also remove Valdis's previous husband, Rued. During Eivor's time in London, she helped the city's two reeves, or local sheriffs, Stowe and Erke, investigate the murder of Governor Triger, and eventually remove 3 members of the Order of Ancients from power within the city. Eivor's next stop was to rejoin Sigurd in Oxenfordshire, where here he was attempting to install a thane by the name of Giedric as elderman in exchange for his oath of friendship. After some time in the Shire, Eivor found out that Sigurd was with Basim ibn Ishak, a hidden one who had came with them from Norway, and they were looking for a paladin by the name of Folke, who was being held for heresy by Lady Eowyn. Conflict brews between Eivor and Sigurd, because Eivor didn't understand what Sigurd and Basim wanted with Folke, and was worried about going against the word that she gave Giedric. Eventually, the group with Giedric assaulted Lady Eowyn's stronghold of Sinebell Castle, looking for what Folke called the Saga Stone that Ragnar Lodbrok brought to England from Norway. After the battle, Lady Eowyn was taken from power, and Giedric agreed to the alliance with Eivor. And inside the castle, though, Eivor, Sigurd, Basim, and Folke had a conversation about the stone and what it is that Sigurd sees in the stone. This conversation, along with the visions that Sigurd had of him being born from the gods, solidified in him that he was something more than a normal man. At this point, Giedric came into the room, informing them that King Alfred's arrived from Wessex to reinforce Lady Eowyn. Sigurd decided the best way to deal with Alfred's arrival was to call for a parley. In this parley, it was agreed that each side would take the other's best warrior to keep the peace. But just before Sigurd announced that Basim would go with Alfred, Folke spoke up and convinced Alfred that the only person they should take is Sigurd. Alfred agreed, and then also, under Folke's recommendation, allowed for her to be in charge of his care. Sigurd agreed, and when the parley separated, Basim told Eivor that he would tell Folke and Sigurd, and that he would inform her when he had information on where they ended up. While waiting for Basim's report, Eivor headed to Shropshire to help Ceolbert and Ivar negotiate a peace with Rhodri, the king of the Britons. When Eivor met Ceolbert and Ivar, she found that King Ceolwulf intended to make Ceolbert the new ealdorman of Shropshire. But before that could happen, the Shire was being represented by Bishop Deorlof. The talks eventually break down because Eivor killed King Rhodri's brother, and they had some very poor past history. Eventually, a peace was signed, but Eivor found Ceolbert dying. Making it back to Westbury, Ceolbert finally passed, and Ivar called for war. This led to an assault on Custrel Castle, after which Ivor and Eivor took King Rhodri to Manstone Rock, where Ivar performed the Blood Eagle on him before his death, and then hung him up for all to see. Before Eivor could leave, though, Ivar challenged her to a holmgang, a one-on-one fight to the death. Eivor initially declined, but changed her mind when Ivar admitted to being the one who killed Ceolbert. When Eivor returned to Quatford to tell Deorlof what happened, she found that Ubba, Ivar's brother, was there as well. She told them both what had happened, included how Ivar fell to Eivor. Eventually, Eivor learned that while King Ceolwulf was grieved at the loss, he made Deorlof the ealdorman of Shropshire, and that there would be an alliance with Ravensthorpe, as long as Deorlof lived. When Eivor returned to Ravensthorpe to give Randvi the news, she received information that Sigurd was in Kent, and set off to find Basim there. In Kent, Basim found an abbot by the name of Ceolbert, who would help them with information on Folke's location. But first, he required them to find out who King Alfred ordered to be the next ealdorman of Kent. After capturing the next ealdorman, Eivor and Basim went to meet Ceolbert at St. Hadrian's Priory. Here, they found out that Folke had killed Ceolbert, and after a conversation where Folke explained that she believes Sigurd is more than a normal man, she left and ordered the guards to kill them and take them to her sanctum in Canterbury. The pair was able to escape, though, and headed straight to Canterbury. But when they got there, all they found was Sigurd's arm beneath Canterbury Cathedral, along with information leading to Portchester Castle. While Basim went to scout the castle, Eivor returned to Randvi to tell her what had happened with the intent to storm the castle with all of her allies when the time came. During her time at Ravensthorpe, though, Dag was tired of the way that she had been since Sigurd left, and challenged her to a battle for the leadership of the clan until Sigurd's return. This battle to the death ended up being won by Eivor, and when it was done, she told everyone that Sigurd is being held against his will, and that she will not rest until he returns. While waiting for Basim's report, Eivor hears a story from a man named Hunwald about how a secret order had chased him from his home in Lincoln, even though his father is Elderman. Eivor then agreed to help him get home, and when in Lincoln, Eivor found that Hunwald's father was dead and that a new Elderman needed to be named. While Eivor was able to cast a vote for the new Elderman, eventually she learned that it was Haralfrith that was the member of the Order of Ancients, and hunted him down. After returning home and telling Randvi of what had happened, she was then summoned by the Elderman of Essex, Beristan. While there, Eivor helped Beristan break up his arranged marriage with Lady Estrid, allowing for him to chase the woman that he really wanted to be with. When Basim finally reported that it was time, Eivor called for all of her allies to meet her in Cronadine. Once there, she finally met Guthrum, though their interaction was not one that looked favorably on Eivor. But they did eventually lay siege to Portchester, which ended with Eivor killing Folke and Sigurd being set free. It wasn't long, though, and reinforcements from Winchester showed up, and Eivor stayed to fight them off, while Basim helped Sigurd get to Ravensthorpe. When Eivor returned to Ravensthorpe, she found the town in the middle of a feast to celebrate Sigurd's return. Though Eivor did find that Sigurd was in a foul mood, which led to an argument between the two on why it took so long to save him, and how he now knows he is much more than people think. Though Eivor still had a hard time understanding what he meant. Around Yuletide in 874, Eivor found herself in Jorvik, looking for Hjor and Lavina, people that she knew from Norway, and found that they served under King Rege of Northumbria, and that Lavina was worried that the king was a target of the criminal organization, the Red Hand. Eivor ended up looking for the Red Hand and found that they were led by 3 members of the Order of the Ancients, with the goal to replace the king with one of their own. Eivor did end each one of their lives, saving the king in the process, and securing the friendship of Lavina and Hjor. Upon Eivor's return to Ravensthorpe, Hytham stopped her and informed her that Gorm, the son of Kjotve the Cruel, the man who had personally killed Eivor's parents, had entered the Order of the Ancients, and was doing something in Vinland for the Order. Eivor agreed to see what they were doing there and to silence Gorm. When she met with Randvi about Gorm in Vinland, she was told of a woman by the name of Nessa who would take her to Vinland, and that she would be found at the docks. Unfortunately for Eivor, when she approached Nessa, Randvi reminded her that she needed to go to Vinland as a slave, as to not raise suspicion. After a long 3-week journey, Eivor arrived in Vinland and started her search for Gorm. She did find an ally in Olav first, who showed her where to start searching for Gorm and how to trade with the natives. When Eivor caught up with Gorm, she found that he had a crystal ball that he spoke to while looking for a gate that he thought the ball would open. After Eivor killed him, she gave the ball to the native people, after telling them the story of the death of the Norse skald, Balder. Eivor returned to Ravensthorpe 3 weeks later to a greeting from Halfdan Ragnarsson, though when she got to his camp, she found that it was abandoned from a battle. Eventually, though, she came into contact with Faravid, who she met in Jorvik, who then took her to meet Halfdan. Halfdan, in turn, asked her to investigate Faravid, to learn if he was loyal or working with the Picts. Eivor did spy on Faravid and helped during the war with the Picts, but found that instead of Faravid, it was King Rouge that was the traitor. After seeing Halfdan take the crown for himself, Eivor left with a sign of friendship from him. After Eivor got home, she found that her blacksmith Gunnar had gone to Gloucestershire in search of a wife. Eivor ended up going to help Gunnar, but was framed for the death of the local elderman, though she was eventually able to clear her name and watch the burning of the Wicker Man. When Eivor returned to Ravensthorpe this time, she had an invitation to meet Vili and his father Hemming, more friends from Norway, in Nottinghamshire. Turns out, Eivor was summoned because Hemming was dying and wanted her to show Vili what it meant to truly lead. After Hemming's death, Eivor helped with the preparations for his funeral, and after saving Vili from the Picts, even helped pick who would succeed Hemming as a Jarl of their clan. Eventually finding her way home, Eivor found that Hytham received a letter from a poor fellow soldier of Christ, asking her to head to Winchester and help remove the order there. She did go and met with King Alfred himself, who asked her to work with his reeve Goodwin and stop an assassination attempt on his life. Eivor did help, stopping 3 members of the Order of Ancients in the process. After doing this and telling Alfred, she was given the choice to convert to Christianity or die. She chose not to convert and was then forced to run from Winchester with guards looking out to kill her. At this point in her life, Eivor has gained multiple allies throughout England and hunted the Order of Ancients to near extinction. But when she came home from Winchester, she was asked to speak to Sigurd, who wanted to go to Valhalla and experience life and glory everlasting, asking her to trust him and take her back to Norway so he could say goodbye to his father Striborn and to achieve his destiny. She did do this, but the conversation did not go well with Striborn. Afterward, though, while Sigurd led her to an Isu vault hidden within Norway, she spoke of a vision that she had before they left for England and what it meant for them. Sigurd opened the vault by speaking words of the Isu language that was written on the Saga stone and allowed for them to descend into the vault. Eventually, they found a machine that attached to their backs and led them to a simulation of what they thought was Valhalla. After what felt like days, Eivor did realize that it was a simulation, though, and chose not to be there anymore. Unfortunately for her, she held the memories of the Isu Odin, and he didn't want her to leave. While Eivor fought Odin to get out of the simulation, she came to realize that she was attached to him more than she realized, and by dropping her axe, she was able to reject Odin and leave the simulation. Things didn't get much better for her, though, when she got out. She found out that Basim had followed them and now held Sigurd by knife point, stating that he had been looking for Eivor a long time to be able to extract his revenge. A fight did ensue, but Eivor was able to get him into a position that allowed for Sigurd to trap him in the Valhalla simulation, after which Sigurd decided that it was best for Eivor to fully lead the Raven clan, and the two left the vault to return to England. When they did finally get back home, Eivor decided to help Guthrum in his final push against the Christians, calling for her allies to meet her on the River Thames. On her way out, the seer Volka stopped her to tell her of a prophecy that if she left, she would win the battle but lose the war, and the home she left will not be the one she comes back to. After meeting with Guthrum at a parley with King Alfred and Reeve Goodwin, the army under Guthrum burned Wareham and planned to attack Alfred. This came at Chippenham, which was a decisive win for the Danes, causing Alfred to flee, and it cost Goodwin his life. This wasn't the last time we saw Alfred, though, as when Eivor got home, she had another letter from the poor fellow soldier of Christ, calling her to Ethelny to finish her removal of the order. Once she got there, she found it was actually Alfred who led the order, even though he did not want to, and that with his medallion, the order was no more. Surprisingly, she took it and left him in peace, though he did claim that he planned to rebuild the order into something new under the light of Christ. He did offer her the key to his study in Winchester, though, telling her that she would find out more answers about him and the order there. This interaction with Alfred happened sometime around 878. Though most of the order of Eivor's life is uncertain, it seems to me that so much of what we spoke about happened early in her time in England. But because of the animus that Layla is using to view Eivor's life doesn't give us the years these events take place, we have to estimate based on the historical moments that we see and when they are known to take place. The TLDR of Eivor's life is like this. She took the life of 45 members of the Order of Ancients, learned that she was the reincarnation of Odin as Sigurd was that of Tyr, and made many, many friends all across England. If we're honest about what we've seen of Eivor's life, it's just too much for one game. As can be seen by some areas here that are full of details and others that are sparse, there's a lot of filler in her life just to keep people playing the game. And that's not even counting the side missions and hunting of treasures and raiding. Personally, I did 100% Valhalla, somewhere right around the 175-hour mark, while I know people who have spent closer to the 600-hour mark in the game while still enjoying it. I am excited for the DLC, I just got tired of the grind of the game. There is some interesting points within the story that kept me invested, the story of the sages and Alfred leading the Order, not to mention the little mentions of the future DLC, like some documents that hint to what's going on in France and Ireland, and some people that we could see again. Personally, I can't wait to get my hands on the Wrath of the Druids in just a few days. But what about you? Are you ready for the DLC? Let me know over on Twitter at visions_AC. Thank you for joining me today. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes. If you love stories about Assassin's Creed lore, please subscribe and tell your friends about this podcast. If you have any questions about Assassin's Creed or topics you'd like me to cover, please feel free to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at visions_AC, and you can find those links in the show notes below. Until next time, my assassin friends, make sure to follow the Creed, and to those Templars listening, may the Father of Understanding guide you.